Hello investors, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I study the best investors and businesses from around the world. In this week's video, we'll go over the story of David Sokol. This video will be divided into 3 parts. Number 1, the early years of David Sokol. Number 2, the principles of David Sokol. Number 3, Sokol's downfall and a great lesson in management. Let's get into it. Number 1, the early years of David Sokol. David L. Sokol was born in 1956 in Omaha, Nebraska, the youngest of 5 children of a grocery store manager, father, and mother who died of breast cancer when he was just 11 years old. He held a number of jobs to assist the family financially. He lived a busy and concentrated life when he started the University of Nebraska, managing school during the day and a job at night. Because he was already married and expecting a kid when he graduated in 1978, he worked as a structural engineer for HDR, a design firm specializing in engineering, architecture, environmental, and construction services. Berkshire Hathaway has long been a client of Sokol's. He was the chief executive officer of MidAmerican Energy Holdings Company, previously Cal Energy Company, a Berkshire Hathaway Inc. subsidiary, from April 19, 1993 until April 16, 2008. He was the chief executive officer and chairman of the board of managers of MidAmerican Funding, LLC, a subsidiary of MidAmerican Energy Holdings, since its inception in 1999. Until he unexpectedly quit in March of 2011, his role with the international conglomerate holding business made him the most likely successor to Buffett. Number 2, the rise of David Sokol. Sokol met Buffett for the first time when Berkshire bought MidAmerican, an Iowa utility, in 1999. Sokol had acquired a modest $28 million a year geothermal firm in 1991 with Buffett's friend Walter Scott and grew it into that utility's powerhouse. MidAmerican, based in Des Moines, accounted for $21.3 billion of Berkshire's revenue, about 8%, and Sokol served as its chairman at the time. He continued his success when he was urged by Buffett in 2007 to bring John Manville, a failing roofing and insulation firm, back on track, and he accomplished it with high praise. He was the company's chairman at the time. Buffett described him as the business equivalent of Ted Williams. After his accomplishment, Buffett's vice chairman, Charlie Munger, requested Sokol to go to China in 2008 to undertake due diligence on BYD, a battery and electric car manufacturer. Sokol loved what he saw, and Berkshire Hathaway bought a 10% stake in the firm for $230 million. The next big step in Sokol's career was when Buffett gave him possibly the most important responsibility of his career in August 2009, turning around NetJets. In 2008, the fractional ownership jet firm lost $711 million before taxes. With Sokol as the CEO of NetJets, they turned a profit higher than $200 million. It's easy to see why Buffett admired this hard-working Midwesterner. Sokol is a good match for him. Sokol is always running in high gear, whereas Buffett comes off as your favorite uncle, easygoing with a nice sense of humor. Sokol is a no-nonsense manager who is a trained engineer. He gets up at 5 a.m. every day to jog 5 miles and lift weights 5 days a week, in part to maintain his weight, but also to keep up with his demanding schedule. He spends half of the year on the road, not including his commutes between Omaha and Columbus, where NetJets was situated. Sokol says that he enjoys fishing and skiing in his spare time. Buffett said he gets more done in a day than perhaps I get done in a week, and I'm not exaggerating. Sokol has been well compensated for his efforts. When Berkshire bought utility in 2000, he, Walter Scott, and Greg Abel held a 19% stake in the firm at the time, valued at roughly $300 million, not in equal shares. Sokol may be out and rubbing elbows with his colleagues or meeting with clients and business partners on any given day, seeking for fresh prospects in China, Brazil, Germany, or elsewhere. So, how did he manage 3 large enterprises while spending so much time away from the office? Sokol follows a methodology which he lays out in his book, Pleased But Not Satisfied. Although I'd love to do a book review, I'll summarize the 3 main takeaways that give us a good idea of his mental framework. The first is the concept of Kaizen. The Japanese concept of Kaizen is one of the most popular management techniques taught in business schools. When applied to business situations, Kaizen refers to a philosophy of continuous improvement that encourages managers to relentlessly focus on improving the effectiveness of all functions within an organization, from the executive suite to the factory floor. Japanese businesses were able to play a key role in rebuilding their country's economy after World War II by consistently applying Kaizen. Businesses were pleased but not satisfied with the results at each stage of Japan's post-war economic recovery and pushed for more improvement. The concept of Kaizen appears to be very similar to David Sokol's business and management philosophy. Second, his management philosophy and principles. Mr. Sokol has succeeded in condensing his business philosophy into a short book that can be read in a couple of hours. Mr. Sokol lays out the 6 commandments of business after giving a brief overview of his professional background: customer commitment, employee commitment, financial strength, integrity, environmental respect, and operational excellence. While many of his examples are specific to MidAmerican's industry, these principles can be applied to any industry. The importance of accountability for those in management roles is emphasized throughout the book, particularly when it comes to the responsibility managers have towards their direct reports. Managers who engage in sloppy behavior, such as giving all of their employees similar scores on generic performance reviews, or punting when it comes to supervision by claiming they don't micromanage, are not only hurting the company, but also failing to provide leadership to employees who look to them. One of the 6 commandments depicted in these stark black and white terms is integrity. Would I be completely comfortable for my actions to be disclosed on the front page of my hometown newspaper in an article written by a knowledgeable and thorough reporter and read by my family, friends, and coworkers? Mr. Sokol asks. Integrity is not complicated. Mr. Sokol says, if that's the case, you're probably not a good fit for our team. Third is his framework on planning, budgeting, capital allocation, and measuring outcomes. Setting goals, budgeting, and actively measuring results get a lot of attention, and rightfully so. Mr. Sokol's advice to plan, execute, measure, and correct throughout a project may seem obvious, but in most organizations, it is the exception rather than the rule. The mere mention of performance metrics can elicit a backlash from underperformers who claim that their jobs are too complex or the industry is too dynamic for metrics to be established. Such people exist in every organization, but they have no place in a system that strives for constant improvement. Metrics are important because what is measured is what gets managers and employees' attention in most organizations. Managers can clearly communicate what is important and what is not by establishing key performance indicators at the corporate level and having each operating unit do the same. Mr. Sokol's advice to always measure against a plan and correct for changing assumptions and events can help any organization improve its results. Allocating capital is one of Berkshire Hathaway's main responsibilities. Due to the large amounts of cash flow generated by Berkshire's operating companies, which regularly flow to headquarters for reallocation to other operating companies, the purchase of entire businesses or investments in publicly traded securities, this is no easy task. Number 3, Skokol's downfall and a great lesson in management. Prior to his untimely retirement in March 2011, David Sokol was widely considered to be Warren Buffett's potential successor. Sokol was charged with salvaging struggling Berkshire businesses, Johns Manville and NetJets, and was dubbed Buffett's Mr. Fix-It. Johns Manville was put back on track under Skokol's leadership, and NetJets went from a $157 million deficit in 2009 to a $207 million profit in 2010. Sokol was also influential in Berkshire's purchase target selection. Sokol traveled to China in 2008 to explore the Chinese vehicle firm BYD, which led to Berkshire taking a $230 million interest in the company. In 2010, this job was valued more than $1.5 billion. Later that year, Sokol orchestrated the $4.7 billion acquisition of Constellation Energy, which saved the firm from bankruptcy. A Douglas County judge determined in April 2010 that Sokol, the CEO of MidAmerican Energy Holdings Company, decided to manipulate future profit projections in such a way that it destroyed San Lorenzo Ruiz Builders and Developers Group's participation in a 1990s Philippines project. Sokol and MidAmerican had behaved willfully and maliciously, according to the judge. MidAmerican was ordered to pay $32 million by the court. In a separate dispute, judges in San Francisco and Omaha decided against MidAmerican, awarding the company $52 million in lost earnings and restored ownership to La Prairie in San Lorenzo. Between January 5th and 7th of 2011, Sokol acquired 96,060 shares of Lubrizol at a limit price of $104 per share. On January 14th, 2011, he presented Buffett with the notion of Berkshire acquiring Lubrizol, and again following in January 25th meeting with Lubrizol's CEO. On March 13th, 2011, Berkshire Hathaway's board of directors approved the acquisition of Lubrizol for $135 per share. Sokol announced his departure from Berkshire Hathaway on March 28, 2011. Mr. Buffett outlined trading activities surrounding the Lubrizol acquisition in his resignation news release, emphasizing that he did not feel anything illegal occurred. On March 31, 2011, David Sokol was seen as one of Buffett's top lieutenants and a probable successor at Berkshire Hathaway, an investing and insurance corporation. Sokol's resignation letter, according to a corporate press release, came as a surprise even to Buffett, who is known as the Oracle for his prophetic business acumen and investment philosophy. Before recommending that Berkshire Hathaway buy Lubrizol Corp., critics in the business press questioned Sokol's purchase of shares in the chemical firm, despite Buffett's assurances that Sokol had done nothing illegal. Sokol spent millions in Lubrizol in December and January, and Berkshire Hathaway announced its $9 billion cash purchase of the company on March 14th. Following the transaction, Sokol's investment worth increased by almost $3 million. On CNBC, Sokol revealed that, knowing what I know now, I would never have brought it to Warren and would have made my own investment and left it alone. That, in my opinion, is a disservice to Berkshire. But if that is what people choose to do in the future, fine. When Buffett was chairman of Salomon Brothers more than 20 years ago, he told employees, when contemplating any business act, an employee should ask himself whether he would be willing to see it immediately described by an informed and critical reporter on the front page of his local newspaper, there to be read by his spouse, children, and friends. Sokol's activities were questioned by the media, who said that they went against Berkshire Hathaway's ethical values. Despite two earlier talks about Sokol leaving the firm 2 years ago, Buffett claimed in a statement that he had not asked him to quit and that the departure came as a complete surprise. Sokol cited the same arguments in those earlier meetings as he did in his new letter. but Buffett and the other board members persuaded him to stay, according to Buffett. However, this time the resignation was accepted. Sokol's story is one that teaches us that integrity is very important in life and that we always need to think twice before making a big decision. Thank you for watching this video entirely till the end. Nothing helps me out more than y'all sticking it out until the end, so please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so that I can continue to make videos like this for you to enjoy.